During a flashback in the Ming Dynasty, an emperor and his clan decided to move from the south to the north, based on his astronomer's advice. All is well when they arrive, for at least 8 hours. Because, once they settle, thunderstorms begin to appear. Lightning strikes the roofs of buildings, causing massive fires everywhere. Naturally, the emperor is distraught. He summons his astronomer, Qin Rui, and his top minister, Shimin. Together with the empress, the emperor demands to know why disasters keep happening when the move was supposed to be a joyous event. Qin Rui patiently advises the emperor to be patient, as the stars forming the dragon's veins are still forming. Shimin interrupts him, sensing his opportunity to bring down his greatest rival. He tells the emperor that he had gone out of his way to ask the carpenter to build a statue of a water god, to counter the fire god's attacks. He reasons that only water could quell the fire. Shimin removes the cloth, unveiling a sculpture that looks almost exactly like the emperor. Shimin says that the emperor's godly attributes were the inspiration for the statue. He adds that he would put his head on the line, promising that there would be no more thunder attacks with this statue commissioned. Just as he says this, lightning strikes the sculpture, decapitating it. Qin Rui laughs, saying that fire attacks are not symbols of a god's wrath, but signs of treachery. He implies that Shimin intends to betray the emperor. Shimin doesn't back down and pulls out his ace. He tells the emperor that he needs a concubine with water placements in her birth chart to counter the fires. The empress expresses her dislike of this idea, but Shimin is relentless. He had already found a suitable girl, and it was none other than Qin Rui's love interest, court lady Soso. Qin Rui begs the emperor not to make her his concubine. Unfortunately, the emperor had already been swayed. He orders his men to bring the court lady to his chambers and banish Qin Rui from the palace. Meanwhile, the empress orders her men to make Shimin an eunuch, as she doesn't like the idea of her husband having more concubines. Shimin finds this unfair, thus he curses both Qin Rui and Soso to be forever mismatched, even in their reincarnations. Now back to the present. After telling this tale, renowned feng shui expert Master Ray explains the practical meanings behind astronomer Qin's predictions. He says that even though Qin based his predictions on stars, there are still human efforts that he considered, like adapting the new culture and helping population growth. Now, this is feng shui, an ancient art that has been practiced in China for over 3,000 years. As a credible authority in this field, Ray gives lectures so more people can understand its concept. Someone from the audience asks a very pertinent question: how does it affect their lives? Ray answers that surroundings affect growth, growth affects personalities, and then personalities affect how situations are dealt with. He gives a convincing example. The moon is the Earth's satellite and has an effect on ocean waves. When an asteroid named SF-376 hit the moon, it affected the gravitational pull the moon has over the tides. Even if this event was relatively minute, the effect rippled across different areas. On one certain day, sea temperatures changed, which affected sea creatures. Over 100,000 sardines jumped onto the shores of Hong Kong. Many people took a lot of it home for their food. And since sardines have very small bones, these people were sent to the ER due to choking. The spike of ER patients on this day has been weird, to say the least. But for feng shui experts, this is due to the fateful impact of cosmic bodies, of which we have no control. So, Ray concludes that feng shui is not just a simple arrangement of furniture. It also considers cosmic calculations that inevitably make changes in our lives. After ending his speech, he receives a round of applause from his audience. After his symposium, Ray decides to go visit his good friend Jojo, together with his cousin and manager Jack. While inside the limousine, Jack keeps on praising Ray for his outstanding speeches and superb presentations. Ray is indeed one of the leading figures in feng shui. If his streak continues, Ray, as well as Jack, will be multi-millionaires in no time. But Ray doesn't mind his cousin. He's looking at his own star chart, at the ominous data presented. The screen of his laptop flashes the warning, "Heaven and earth-shattering inescapable curse." At that moment, he receives a call from his father, who has also seen his online star chart. Ray's father also practices feng shui. It's him who influenced Ray to take this successful career path. The father asks how he's doing. Ray says he's fine. Still, his father reminds him to check his aura. He's done some calculations, and he's found out that a meteor shower will pass by his ruling star and dim its light. He invites his son to have dinner with him so they can discuss this. But Ray says he can't come, claiming he's busy. And with that, he hangs up. It's true that Ray has a lot of scheduled meetings and presentations, and it's also true that he doesn't feel like spending some time with his father. However, he takes note of his father's warning, as he has concluded that much. He's about to experience a predestined doom, but he won't let that happen. Jack asks if adding more black goldfish can deter this doom, curse, or whatever you call it. Ray clarifies that black goldfish is only good for minor, everyday jinxes. But what's ahead of his fate is a more potent curse. At this level, according to ancient texts, only a human can take the curse from him. That human must have his or her birthday compatible with his. Jack confidently says he's going to find that one person who will catch all of Ray's impending misfortunes. But Ray knows it's easier said than done. In the next scene, we see Ho Pei Pei hard at work cleaning a toilet, while her mother, Sumon, attempts to cheer her on. She reads her daughter an article from Master Ray's book on feng shui. According to the book, Pei Pei's destiny is about to change for the better. But Pei Pei doesn't believe it. She has faced obstacles all her life, and not one article will miraculously change it. She has already accepted her jinxed fate, and she'll be fine. Pei Pei has always been a hardworking girl, and her work ethics are always paired with optimism and kindness. She doesn't mind, as long as her mother stays healthy and safe. Later we see her riding to her next job. She's supposed to get her boss a cup of cappuccino. However, a man who rides a limousine has already bought the last cup. To her surprise, it's Master Ray who bought it. She tries to buy it back from him, but the feng shui expert just waves her off. Frustrated, Pei Pei shouts the word fraud as the limousine speeds away. Much later, she finally finds a cup of cappuccino good enough for her boss. She rushes inside the building where she works. As she's about to enter the doors to the emergency stairs, she hears suggestive sounds from behind. She's so surprised to realize the sounds have come from Ray and his manager Jack, who are there because Ray wants to fix his eyebrows. Pei Pei brings out a pepper spray and aims it at Jack, but Jack ducks, making Ray receive the full spray. Later they're in Jojo's office, tending to Ray's swollen eyes. He wants to complain about his eyes, but Jojo's dilemma is more important. Her father, Chairman Hong, is a very superstitious man, and he also happens to own one of the largest conglomerates in the country. Jojo says her father has hired a new feng shui consultant, which boomed the company's sales, but negatively affected his health. Jojo is worried about her father, so she wants Ray to take a look into it. Jack says that Chairman Hong is like an uncle to them, so they must help him with his dilemma. A few days later, Ray and Jack accompany Jojo to their rest house, where her father is watching the feng shui consultant, who does some dubious choreography, passing it off as part of setting up protective spells. This consultant is named Shimin, and he's been hired by the chairman upon the recommendation of Kai Lin, his vice chairwoman. When Ray arrives and lays eyes on Shimin, there's instant bad blood, especially with Shimin. They pretend to be friends, but they immediately go their separate ways to check the feng shui of the place. Ray's procedures are more grounded in science and ancient texts, whereas Shimin's procedures tend to be showy with no substance whatsoever. Shimin does have knowledge of feng shui, but he has a greedy and envious heart, and his instincts tend to stray from the right path. After the inspection, it's Ray who gives the most sensible solution to Chairman Hong's problem. He says the location of the property is good, indicating a good flow of money, but the problem lies with the chairman's 3 ex-wives living in the same vicinity. Shimin first suggested taking them in because of the chairman's kindness, but the ex-wives always quarrel because of money and luxury. Even if Kai Lin manages their shopping impulses, they still demand the chairman to spend some time with each of them. When Ray learns that the ex-wives all share the same zodiac sign, the tiger, he suggests separating them all. As they say, one mountain is not big enough for 2 tigers, let alone 3. Chairman Hong is impressed with Ray's solution. Because of this, he's decided on something. He calls Shimin, and then he gives them both a challenge. His company is expanding, so he'll need the best feng shui consultant to draw up the plans for the expansion. Whoever has the best plans will be hired and paid a huge sum of money. Later, in her private office, Kai Lin is contemplating the chairman's decision to hire Ray as one of his consultants. She has thought before that things would be easy if she manipulated the chairman's superstitious nature. That's why she hired Shimin to do the job. As it turns out, the two have been in cohorts for a long time. Their goal isn't explicitly stated, but one can assume that Kai Lin intends to take over the company by earning his trust, and at the same time weakening him physically. Remember when Jojo said the company's sales boomed after hiring Shimin? That's because he has a dirty trick up his sleeve. He has requested a doomed office room where Kai Lin's subordinates will be placed. They are the guinea pigs, from whom their health and luck get sucked dry, in exchange for the company's good fortune. Shimin's setup is a success, except for one hitch. Among Kai Lin's subordinates is Pei Pei. Now this explains why she said earlier that she's always jinxed, and that's because someone's absorbing her luck. However, she still looks radiant and youthful, unlike her workmates, implying that there's something about her that's resisting the bad aura in the room. Sheeman intends to use this aspect to his advantage. He knows that something bad is coming for Ray, and that Ray is looking for that one human who will take away his misfortunes. An evil plan forms in his mind. After looking into Pei-Pei's details, Sheeman creates a scenario to put Pei-Pei into Ray's employ. Sheeman pretends to be a shaman and meets Pei-Pei's mother, Sumon. He convinces her that the reason why Luck evades her is because her daughter's birthday is incompatible with hers. He gives her a written note indicating what birthday Pei-Pei should have. Unfortunately, Sumon believes her, and Pei-Pei is none the wiser. She immediately changes her details in the company's data. Once this is set, Kai Lin takes the next step by assigning Pei-Pei to help Ray with the Feng Shui project. Pei-Pei, even though she doesn't like Ray, grudgingly accepts the task. She visits him at his home. Ray takes notice of her details, especially her birthday. He sees that hers is compatible with his birthday, making her a good candidate for being his black goldfish. But the woman is akin to a walking disaster, disarranging his pillows and ornaments, and in danger of toppling over his balancing stones that are meant to ward off bad people. If she's really compatible with him, then he should have felt it. Anyway, he warns her not to touch anything while he gets dressed. As soon as Ray walks up the stairs, Pei-Pei walks to the balancing stones and topples them. As soon as she does this, two men looking like gangsters walk up to the patio, and they want to talk to Ray. The one called Big Brother wants Ray to set a date, and then he makes a slashing motion with his hand. Pei-Pei, who secretly takes a video of their interaction, is shocked to learn that Ryan is also in cahoots with gangsters, but she doesn't manage to film the whole interaction, as she gets distracted by Big Brother's henchmen, so Pei-Pei only captures the start and end of the interaction, where Ryan receives payment from Big Brother after agreeing upon something. With a recording like this, it's easy to make assumptions. But in truth, Big Brother is a nice man, despite his looks. He actually wants Ryan to set up a date for a successful operation on his testicular cancer. Ryan does his job and earns Big Brother's trust. That night, Ray vents to Jack about contradicting things about Pei-Pei. He thinks they have compatible birthdays, but she always gets herself into accidents that somehow bounce back to him. But Jack has a different perspective. He says that perhaps it's fate that brought them together, so Ray must take this chance. He suggests he should court Pei-Pei, so that when she finally falls in love with him, she'll be the sacrifice that will catch Ray's impending doom. Ray doesn't like the idea at first, but he eventually relents, so the next day, he prepares a feast for her, even including a delicious hot pot. His only condition is for her not to interfere with his work. But, later, Pei-Pei can't help it, especially when she overhears the client's request. The client is a rich, pregnant lady who wants Ray to set up a date for her childbirth, so it won't interfere with her personal interests, mainly gambling and shopping. Pei-Pei gives the woman an earful about how she shouldn't be a mother, if she's only going to think about herself. Ray comes in between to stop Pei-Pei and save his business. Later that night, Ray meets with some clients who have scheduled a short lesson on how to read faces. They are having a good time when he notices the couple walking into the restaurant. Apparently, Pei-Pei has a boyfriend. Ryan proceeds to study the man's face, whose name is Man Qing. In conclusion, Man Qing has the tendency to cheat based on the mole near his eyes and his slanted lips. Ray also overhears the conversation, in which Pei-Pei promises to support him financially. Ray thinks Man Qing is a bum and a cheater, so to prove this, he invites Pei-Pei to an amusement park, where he knows Man Qing will also appear based on his prior investigation. This is also part of his plan to make her fall for him. He pulls Pei-Pei to the Viking ride, and guess who sits in front, facing them? Man Qing, his wife, and his child. It's too late to get off the ride, so Pei-Pei looks straight at her ex, with pain in her eyes, while Ray cowers in his fear of heights. In the next scene, Ray invites Pei-Pei to have a round of taekwondo sparring. He knows she still has not moved on from her heartache. He also knows that sometimes, releasing the pain through physical exercises can be more relieving. He tells Pei-Pei to come and have a go at him. Instead, she asks him why he interfered with her personal problem. Ray makes excuses about not knowing anything about her relationships. He continues to goad her. When she doesn't respond, he taunts her by saying her ex's irritating lines. This irritates Pei-Pei and gives Ray a combo kick in the face. A few days later, Pei-Pei feels guilty for releasing her resentment toward Ray. She gives him a gift as an apology. Then she notices that he has a new motorcycle. Ray says he's going to the location where Chairman Hong intends to develop his company's expansion. He invites Pei-Pei to come with him. She agrees, but she wants to drive. Before Ray can protest, she's already nudged herself into the front seat. Ray finds out just how much of a daredevil she is on the roads. Their speed almost exceeds the limit, which makes him nervous and nauseous. They drive toward the countryside. The sun is up and feels good on the skin, and the breeze feels comfortable. The drive is like a little rest for both of them. For Ray, to temporarily forget that he's about to be doomed, and for Pei Pei, to feel that she has no responsibilities even for a short while. They arrive at a dock where they need to ride a small boat that needs to be paddled on foot. It feels like a date to them, with Pei Pei waving her hands happily. She's never done this before, and it feels good. Ray hasn't done this before as well, not at least with anybody. With Pei Pei, he feels at ease letting out his inner child because he knows she won't judge him. Finally, they arrive at their destination. Reception is not as good, so Ray can't fully survey the star charts in the area. They approach some locals and introduce themselves as members of the Hong Group's surveying team. Upon hearing the name Hong, the locals get angry and tell them to go away. It looks like they're not on board with the development plans intended for their land. One local bumps his fist on the table, saying they don't want a casino hotel here. Ray chuckles as he immediately identifies Shimin. As it happens, he's arrived there before them, and he's pretending to be one of the locals to get chummy with them. Shimin attempts to drive them away by threatening them with snakes and herbs, which backfires horribly. In the end, he has to be escorted by his men because his lips have become bloody and swollen. Ray and Pei Pei ignore him. Ray continues surveying the area using manual methods. He deduces that the location is a circle within a circle, forming a large yin-yang. The circle represents harmony, implying that if nature and wildlife are allowed to thrive, happiness will prevail. Pei Pei scoffs. If that's the case, then the Hong Group should not go through with the construction. Ray is about to defend the company when he sees that their boat is now being ridden by Shimin and his men. Now, they're stranded on the island and are forced to spend the night there. Pei Pei, forever the optimist, says they shouldn't worry. She's confident that someone will pick them up. But nobody picks them up. Mosquitoes are everywhere, biting every inch of their exposed skin. Good thing she has a mosquito spray, but it may not last the whole night because Ray keeps on spraying. He remarks on how content Pei Pei looks for someone who has considered herself jinxed. She shares her mother's lesson. Life moves on, whether you're happy or not. So, if she's given lemons, she'll make some lemonade and enjoy every sip. Pei Pei looks up to the sky and is amazed at how stars litter the night sky. Ray goes on to recite technical facts and calculations about astronomy, but she shuts him up. Instead, she asks a riddle. If 1 equals 4, 2 equals 8, and 3 equals 624, what number equals 4? Ray confidently says 96 and follows it with technical explanations, but she says the correct answer is 1, as she had said the answer right at the start. She acknowledges that Ray is indeed smart and knowledgeable in his field, but he thinks too much, to the point that he forgets to enjoy the present. She advises him to keep it simple. Ray appreciates her advice. They spend the night by the river, exposed to nature's will. In the morning, Ray wakes up to see Pei Pei looking wistfully at the sunrise. To his surprise, she's glowing, literally. For the first time, he sees the aura of kindness surrounding her, and it's strong. He blurts out that her aura is beautiful, and she shouldn't be jinxed. She asks if only her aura is beautiful, to which he replies that she is too. They get awkward with each other, but not in an annoying way. Rather, it's more of a cheesy feeling that preludes something romantic. Ray sees a boat from a distance, and they both wave at it to save them. A few days later, Ray visits Pei Pei in her office. He gives her office mates some egg tarts, but he gets horrified at seeing their zombie-like expressions. That's when he starts noticing the room. The more he looks around, the more his face becomes grim. He tells Pei Pei that this room is called an evil office lockdown. It's a setup in feng shui that is meant to drain people's energy. He also points out that the mirror is a two-way mirror, implying that someone is spying on them. Ray says he's impressed by her, maintaining her good looks while working in this place. Pei Pei reveals it's Shimin who designed this room. However, Ray thinks he's not the mastermind. Rather, it's someone with a higher rank. Ray holds Pei Pei's hands and says loudly that he'll protect her from getting jinxed again. He knows someone is listening on the other side, and he's correct. Shimin and Kai Lin look at them nervously, but when Shimin sees them holding hands, he knows his plans have worked. Remember, he intends to make them closer together so that Ray will think he's passing his imminent downfall on her, when, in truth, it will only bounce back to him because of their mismatched birthdays. All Shimin needs to do is wait for the inevitable to happen. For the next few days, Ray and Pei Pei grow closer together. Ever since he saw her aura, he has vowed to himself to never pass on his doom to her. At this point, he's still ignorant of Shimin's plans for him. Ray has finished a miniature of the construction development based on the feng shui he's observed from the countryside. Using blocks and Lego toys, they place several elements according to their supposed locations. Pei becomes bold with her feelings. She takes the Lego toy representing her and taps it onto Ray's Lego, imitating a kiss. Of course, Ray is not oblivious to it. As they move closer, his phone rings. It's his father, wanting to cook dinner for him and spend some time with him. As usual, he declines. He even berates his father for interrupting the kiss. Pei only laughs at him, but she wants to impart a wonderful lesson to him. She tries to explain it in technical terms like he always does when he's explaining his field of study. Say, his father is 50 years old, and he reaches the age of 90. If Ray sees his father for, say, 3 hours at most per year, and there are only 40 years left between now and the future, then it means he will only see him for a total of 5 days in this lifetime. That's not enough, and definitely not deserving of his father in his twilight years. She says life is one big subtraction, and that time moves forward. We must do what we can to spend more time with our loved ones. Ray thinks about this deeply. In the end, they finally visit the father. The father is happy that his son finally visits him, but there's a twist. He introduces his new girlfriend, and it's none other than Pei's mother, Sumon. What happens next is an awkward family dinner, with the two elders discussing marriage. Yes, it's that serious. And it has Pei in a determined stance. She's the one negotiating the details. She's not asking much, as she's not taking advantage of Ray's wealth, but she knows her mother well enough to know what's best for her. Sumon is really touched by her daughter's love for her. She gives a heartfelt speech, which ends in tears. Ray's father has no choice but to take Sumon away to calm her down. Ray sits next to Pei and tells her that he also cares for his father. When she asks how he shows it, Ray hugs her and then kisses her. In the kitchen, the father looks up as he senses that the ominous time has finally arrived. The meteor shower is now passing by Ray's star planet, stealing its light. Just after they kiss, a team of reporters suddenly barges into the house and makes an exposé about Ray. The reporter accuses him of being a fraud and having shady business dealings with gangsters. As proof, the lady shows a video recording of Ray's meeting with Big Brother, and then, hitting the nail on the head, is the revelation that Pei was the one who recorded the video and acted as the spy to reveal Ray's weakness. Of course, none of it is true. It's all a ploy by Shimin to bring Ray down. The reporter also reveals Ray's impending doom and his plan to make Pei the scapegoat. In the aftermath of this revelation, Ray lost all of his sponsorships and schedules, even his house and his car. He has no choice but to stay with his father and let this all pass. He joins his father in the market, where he offers feng shui advice for a cheap price. Meanwhile, Shimin and Kai Lin celebrate in their office. They know they've won, so they think they're now free to do indecent things with each other. Perhaps the most hurt in this situation is Pei. She has blindly trusted Ray, only to discover that he's making her his scapegoat. But one good thing about her is that she can think rationally, without relying too much on feng shui. She thinks back on the events that led to this and realizes she is involved. Therefore, there must be something she can do to help Ray. For now, what she can do is buy all available talismans and give them to Ray for his protection, albeit while wearing a creepy mascot. On the other hand, Ray is also worried about Pei. His father advises him to use this downtime to prepare for his comeback. Failures are temporary, but lessons remain forever. So Ray decides to work on his own, to build his credibility again. He visits the place where the Hong Group intends to build their expansion project. This time, he uses more grounded scientific methods to prove that this place is not suitable for the planned development. And then, he finds the best evidence. On the day of the groundbreaking ceremony, Shimin proudly and arrogantly presents his feng shui plans. When he calls Chairman Hong and Jojo to do the symbolic first dig, Ray speaks up and interrupts them. He explains that the soil is full of toxic and magnetic minerals. If the construction continues, the company will be charged with eco-vandalism. He has the official report, so it's better to listen to him than regret it later. Shimin refutes all of Ray's explanations, especially about the magnetism aspect. He bets his head they are all false. So, to prove his point, Ray places a large magnet around Shimin's neck, immediately pulling him to the ground. Jojo asks why this report is not reflected in the final assessment. Ray says it's because someone of high rank is trying to cover it all up. They look at Kai Lin, who denies her involvement in this felony. However, a clip of her and Shimin doing suspicious things in her office suddenly plays on television. As it turns out, Pei remembers the two-way mirror. She bought cameras, recorders, and a remote control to catch her boss in the act. In the end, her sacrifice has paid off, as both Kailin and Shimin have been arrested. Pei Pei tries to leave the event, but Ray catches up to her. He knows what she's done to support him and lift him up when he is down. He also realizes that she's right. The present matters, especially when it's spent with someone he loves. He shows her the nerdy way of saying those 3 important words, as his confession of his true feelings. Still not convinced, Pei Pei brings up the matter of their mismatched birthdays. But Ray says it's what brought them together. That's why he believes they're the perfect mismatch. He doesn't care about those things anymore. He only wants Pei Pei. She finally believes his words and gives in to his hug. To seal the deal, Ray kisses her, with shooting stars racing in the sky. Ray's star planet eventually regains its own light, shining it down on the new couple. Indeed, it's like the universe has conspired to put 2 mismatched people together to form an everlasting bond.